You can't pick where you're from, but you can affect where you go in life. I've seen it through my many years now where people have gotten complacent with where they're from and where they're going. Some people never got out of the gate they started in. You know, maybe they follow the same footsteps as their fathers and grandfathers and just followed that particular course of life and never really looked past that line to see where they may want to go personally. Others have. They've started from wherever they were at and have gone on to other places and have done other things. But I notice that sometimes as we go through life, and especially as we get older, we do become unconsciously complacent. Maybe we think that we've gotten to a certain point in our lives where good is good enough and really don't aspire to do something else or something different, to explore, to check out what might be beyond the horizon that we've gotten so comfortable with. It's scary. It's very scary at times to take chances and to move out of your comfort zone. I get it. I've done it. I've experienced all of it. I've been the complacent one and I've been the adventurous one. And I'm going to tell you what, people, like I said, you can't pick where you come from, but you can affect where you go. And that little message will resound and show itself tonight on Whiskey Business. Hi, I'm Dino Tripodis, and welcome to Whiskey Business, a podcast not so much about whiskey as it is one with whiskey, a very special guest bottle. I love it on Whiskey Business when the guest bottle is something that I've never seen or tasted. And this is from we'll talk more about him because our guest, who I'll introduce here in just a little bit, knows more about him than I do. This is the latest, greatest alchemist in the bourbon world. Jay Mattingly is doing amazing things with the brown liquor. And this is Amira's Hammock for Whiskey Business tonight, a very special bottle. So I'm very excited. John Whitney's going to put it up there so you can see it proper. There you go. Lovely. It's like you literally took the bottle on a catwalk. And before we get to our guest and more about the guest bottle and our topic tonight, Hansberry.
Well, we have exciting news here at Whiskey Business. We have been nominated. Somebody out there.
It is an honor to be nominated.
For the Columbus Podcast Awards.
Yay, Whiskey Business.
Best comedy section.
In the comedy section.
The comedy section. You are a comedian, I think.
You think that's why we got tossed in there because
so.
of my 30-year journey in stand-up?
I think so.
And people just assume that Whiskey Business is going to be just a laugh riot from start to finish.
It's like when there's like a drama in like the musical award, like the Golden Globes.
Yeah.
That's like us.
That's like us?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, no,
you know how it's the Golden Globes have weird categories?
I can guarantee that in every installment of Whiskey Business, there's been some laughter. So maybe that's why we're in the comedies. I don't care. I'm just thrilled to be in there, and we would like you to vote.
Yeah, so if you go to ColumbusPodcastAwards.com, and we've been putting links all over our social media page, there's directions right there on the homepage where you can vote for us. You can, and there also, like we said, all sorts of different categories. Our buddy George Wolfe. Our buddy Alex Hasty, Ohio v. the World, our friend Mom Stacy McKay and the Momcast. There's a bunch of people that we know.
Squatch Smashers in the comedy section.
So even if you have never heard of them, it's cool to check out all the other podcasts that are nominated and just explore them too. But so do that. Do us a favor, vote early and often, as we say.
Early and often, yes, you can vote because we can't vote for ourselves. Otherwise, we would have a clear lead. Do it the old Chicago way.
We're also on Instagram, Whiskey Business Podcast. Find us on Facebook, Twitter at Whiskey Biz Show. Of course, John Whitney is videotaping us right now for the YouTube.
Yes.
Whiskey Business with Dino Tripodis.
Right.
Is that how you say it?
Yes, Whiskey Business with Dino Tripodis. Close enough. All right.
I just met him today.
And also, hearkening back to last week's podcast, I want to thank everybody who tuned in on both the YouTube channel and on the audio version of the podcast with my mother, Christine Tripodis. You made her a star, ladies and gentlemen, and she's still basking in the glow. If you haven't checked out And Then There's Mom, last week's podcast, please do, because it is probably a very, very special one, especially to me, because I got to chat for 90 minutes with my 82-year-old mother. So if you want to go back into the archives and check out any other Whiskey Business podcasts, start with that one. In fact, it was so good that our guest tonight was actually like, I got to follow Mom. Yeah.
Dude, it was messed up. I had a priest, and Mom.
Yeah.
I mean,
you had Father Nick Ventura.
Yeah.
Then we had a nice little palate cleanser with our good friend George Caliotis.
which another Steubenville boy
Another
is.
Steubenville boy.
I hung on every word on that one.
And then we got Mom.
Yeah.
Mom was the coup. Our guest is Scott Krupinski, and he is the genius and the muscle and the determination. I mentioned earlier in the podcast about, sometimes you can just do what you're doing and stay complacent, or sometimes you could take some chances and follow a dream. And this man wanted to devote a newspaper to the brown liquor. Ohio Bourbon Times comes out in late May.
Correct.
And you are behind all that. Bravo, sir. Well done.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations.
I don't know if congratulations are in order. I mean, anybody who's crazy enough to start a print newspaper in 2019
Yeah.
either has to be a genius
The
or a
man is-
little bit
The man is
crazy.
insane.
Or maybe I had a couple too many of the bourbons that night.
Print is
but here
dead,
we are.
they say. Print is dead, I say. Krupinski is mad.
He's a madman.
He's mad. But you've also decided to devote it to this beautiful brown liquor we call bourbon. And it's not going to be just about bourbon. It'll be about the people that make the bourbon, including, I might say, this gentleman right here, Mr. Mattingly.
Jeff Mattingly, who is the master behind a lot of really tremendous, highly valuable blended bottles that
I
are
said
out
he's
there.
like the latest, greatest alchemist of mixing.
He's truly amazing. I didn't know what to expect when I went down to interview him, but it was like walking into home. It was just
Whose home?
Into my home,
Your home.
back home, our
No,
home.
Steubenville.
Oh,
Yeah,
Steubenville.
Scott is also from Steubenville. Steubenville, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, little side note, is the center of the universe. Okay, back to Scott.
Yes. Did we mention
think so.
DeCarlo's Pizza? Did we?
No, we will mention it tonight.
Yes, that may come up.
All right.
So I wasn't exactly sure what to expect. With anybody's meteoric rise to success comes controversy.
Sure.
Comes haters.
Sure.
In the bourbon world, we call them tater haters.
Tater haters?
Yeah, the haters and the taters all come together to try and claw down the next guy that's shooting skyward.
Yeah, anytime somebody's up on a pedestal, it is the natural inclination of some people to knock that person off said pedestal.
Exactly. So I had a few of Mr. Mattingly's iterations, and just loved him. I mean, my God, there hasn't been one of them that I haven't loved. His business plan is, in my opinion, absolutely genius.
What does he do?
So
How does he create these wonderful elixirs?
his theory, his outlook, his philosophy. People have been distilling brown liquor since the 1700s.
Yes.
In those 250 some odd years, they pretty much got it down pat. So what is left to create in a scientific process of distillation? So what he does, he is a master blender, a finisher. And I learned an awful lot, and I learn an awful lot every day in this venture that we went out on. You go into his place right in Georgetown, Kentucky,
Okay.
and he has a program. He has shelf bourbon. It's called Bourbon 30, and there's a cool story behind that I'll let Jeff tell you sometime. and it will be in the
and debut issue?
Debut issue of Ohio Bourbon
Ohio
Times.
Bourbon Times this May.
That's a hell of a
late
tease
May.
right
Yeah,
there.
Coming in
how
late
about
May.
that?
We'll be saying that a lot.
We will be saying that quite a bit today. That's actually in the contract, I believe.
We only have 71 more mentions.
There
to
you
go.
go.
All right.
There
Run
you
away.
go. I'm counting 75, but hey, here we are.
I said 71 to get to 75. All right, go ahead. But you were saying.
So his business model is this. You pull up to his place. Right across the street from his place is the park. And the park has a spring in it. And legend has it that spring is where the fabled Reverend Elijah Craig drew the water for the very first distillery in Georgetown, Kentucky.
Legend has it.
Legend has it. However, over the centuries, at some point, until about 4 years ago, Georgetown, Kentucky went completely dry.
Mm-hmm.
So you couldn't buy booze of any kind in Georgetown, Kentucky, the home of the Reverend Elijah Craig. But that was until Jeff Mattingly came along. His family roots go back in distilling. His great-grandfather, I believe, was one of the first licensed distilleries in the state of Kentucky. So going way, way back.
So there's a history.
There is a history.
This isn't some guy that whose family was in retail, and all of a sudden he decided to leave the family business and start making whiskey. There's some history to the whiskey making.
There is an ancestral history to it. But what I like about it, you pull up to his place, and I've heard so much. I had heard so much about the Mattingly brand and Bourbon 30. I'm like, it's like I'm going to the Holy Land of bourbon. I just couldn't wait. I pulled up, and to look at his, the storefront, and it's what it is a storefront. Absolutely not what I expected for these spectacular bottles to come out of.
Like, this stuff's coming out of there?
Yeah, very
that type of thing?
Very denouement on the presentation,
right.
The initial impact. Walk into his front door, and he's got Miss Trisha, and not Trisha. It is Miss Trisha, and not Ms. Trisha.
No, Miss.
And she is going to be listening to this podcast, so I want you to know that I said it properly. It is Miss Trisha.
Trisha.
Miss Trisha will greet you. She's the vice president of marketing. She handles all of the stuff that doesn't have to do with picking barrels out.
Which somebody has to.
Somebody has to. First thing you get when you walk into Bourbon 30 is a hug. They are huggers. I'm a Polak from Steubenville. I'm a hugger. It's like I found my fucking people here.
You realize
Yeah.
you're the only one that it's because you are Polish, you're the only one who can use that term.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
But,
I can't call you that.
No. But,
Not now.
No, but you could.
Maybe by the end of the
I
podcast.
find it a term of endearment, personally.
Because you come from a place where it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, they've got a great little,
I'm sorry. Between you saying Polak and last week with my mom talking about Asians, it's just like I don't know how much longer whiskey business is going to be on, ladies and
here
gentlemen.
we are.
I really don't.
Couple more glasses of this, we won't care, right?
And she didn't say anything derogatory. It's just the way she was brought up.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
So I was brought up as a Polak, as it were. That's my word, and I will. So I'm a hugger, so I fit right in. Immediately, I'm at ease. They've got a great little waiting area. They've got 4 or 5 bottles opened up on a couple of barrels. Nobody's watching you. They've got little plastic tasting glasses. You take a little sip while you're waiting for your turn to go back. So once you get to the back, you meet Jeff. Now Jeff is, he is a true Southern gentleman. And I mean that with all respect. But he's got a bit of redneck in him that I found so appealing. Jeff retired from the Toyota plant down there in Georgetown.
Right.
He was a production lead, everything. Always had bourbon in his blood. But he retired from there, and former bodybuilder, just a big dude, okay? And he's also a hugger. Jeff, however, will squeeze your spleen out if the opportunity arises.
Miss Trisha is a little more delicate.
Miss Trisha is
all right.
delicate.
Yeah. And
Jeff brings the business.
Yeah, and so you being a hugger and him being a hugger, you guys truly hugged it out.
Yeah, we hugged it out.
When
He
you and
won
I
at
met
the
for
end.
when you and I met for the first time, we hugged.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest, I thought you lingered a little too long.
Well, dude, you know what? I may have been a little starstruck.
It was like I was like, okay, we really
Yeah.
don't know each other yet.
Yeah.
So it's time to let go.
We did. we did by the end of the hug, though, didn't we?
So go ahead, Big Jeff Mattingly.
So Big Jeff Mattingly, we go back into the back room, and it completely unassuming. Every dime that they make goes into the bourbon, and he does not distill,
Right.
for retail.
Right.
He has his distiller's license, but that's not where his sweet spot is.
No.
He's got 30, 40 open barrels of bourbon in the back, all sourced from you'll have some MGP juice, you'll have some Kentucky source juice. And you look at the top of the barrel, you know exactly what it is, where it's from, how old it is. But what you do is you get a thief, and you go from barrel to barrel. Jeff will talk to you.
Explain what a thief is for those who might not be familiar with the
thief is a long
terminology.
copper tube with a handle on top, closed on one end, with a small hole where your thumb would go.
Right.
And you dip it down into the barrel, and you pull up an amount of bourbon without getting the char or any sediment or anything like that. You're literally pulling it from the center of the barrel. So Jeff will get that, and he'll put a few in tasting cups, and you figure out what you like. And then we go back to this row, and we figure out a few more that we like. Now, once we have half a dozen or so that we like,
Yeah.
we start combining them. We start mixing them. We start blending them. We start proofing them down to find that sweet spot where you find that bottle of bourbon that is absolutely perfect for your palate. There is no such thing as leaving there with a custom bottle that you pick that you don't like,
Right.
because you picked it.
So you can get your own individual bottle from Mattingly's for your very own self,
Once-
or is this something that he'll put together and say, okay, that's gonna be my next bottle?
Well, both, actually. Which brings me to my next two topics.
Okay.
While we're on the Mattingly subject, there's a story behind this bottle.
The Amiras.
This particular bottle.
All right.
Amira El-Sawi, former co-worker of mine, loves the brown liquor. I needed somebody to help me out with sales. I'm extremely busy on the editorial side of things.
Right.
And, I think there needs to be a bit of a boundary between sales and the editorial stuff.
Sure.
You don't want things being influenced. So Amira, however, she was more of an Irish whiskey person. And, I have nothing against Irish whiskey. But I said, yeah. So a Pollock drinks some Irish whiskey. So
He said it.
no. So
Term of endearment.
I said, Mary, you got to learn bourbon. She says, okay, how do I learn bourbon besides going out to bars and drinking different bourbons?
That's
I said,
the way I learned.
you know what? That is a good shot.
In this podcast.
That's how you learned.
Yeah, and it's how I learned. But you need a crash course. What I want you to do, I want you to go down and I want you to visit Bourbon 30. They're doing a release this week. Go down, check them out. And while you're down there, I'm going to be a guest on Whiskey Business Podcast. So I want you to get with Jeff. and I want you and Jeff to get together, and I want you to do a one-off bottle. Bottle number 1 of 1 for Whiskey Business.
And that's this.
That is your mission, Amira. And she says, okay, I got this, no problem. So about 4 in the afternoon, I get a call from Georgetown, Kentucky. And it's Jeff Mattingly, and it's Amira. And they're both on...
This is today.
No, this was when they were down there.
Okay.
This was when, they popped up on Facebook Messenger video, together. It's like, what's up? I said, did you come up with a good one for Dino and the crew? They said, well, yes and no. I said, well.
Which I'm used to that
Yeah,
response usually.
Yes, I'm excited about. Please delve into the know a little bit. She said, so I was with Jeff, and we're tasting, and I found the perfect one. And I took a drink of it, and I told Jeff, I said, this is like you are laying in the hammock in the middle of summertime, and it's hot. But then all of a sudden, the cool breeze comes, and you get a cool breeze finish.
It's a lovely picture.
It was so damn lovely. Jeff said, fuck it, we're going to make several bottles of this because this is damn delicious.
And that's where the
Amira's hammock came into play. And it also has Whiskey Business.
Now, see, I thought that
each of the 27 bottles.
27.
So, and I thought that the Whiskey Business was just part of the. You're saying that Whiskey Business is homage to us?
That is yours. That is to you.
Get out of here!
No.
So there's 26 other bottles.
Yeah.
I feel like I've won an award.
Well,
I'd like to thank the Academy and Jeff Mattingly for this exclusive honor. When I started drinking at age 12, I always hoped there'd be a day like this where there'd be a bottle, if not named after me, then something I was associated with. And it's happened.
it's happened.
Wow.
So where are the
That's
other
amazing.
26 bottles? Are they?
The
Did she
other-
bring them back, or they?
No,
Okay.
she actually bought a bottle. We got this bottle, and the remaining 25 bottles sold immediately because it was just. I
Wow.
mean, this is
Boys, this is. I don't mean to be. This is huge.
There's a
This
liquor
is
named
huge.
after you.
After us.
Well, after the show,
After
yeah.
us. After the show, which is just as good.
Yeah.
Which is just as good. That's amazing.
and the cool thing about it, Dino.
The cooler thing, you mean? Because already it's cool.
No, it's cooler than hell. But anybody can go down and do this. You can buy one bottle. You can buy 30 bottles of your custom blend, and you name your own bottle.
I'm tickled at the fact that there is 26 other bottles out there that somebody purchased, but they probably have no idea behind. They don't know the whole story though.
They may.
They might.
They may, because Jeff and
We do.
Miss Tricia knew the whole story, and they like to share stories.
So
much like Ohio Bourbon Times likes to share stories.
Which we're gonna
You
get.
see what I did there?
I saw.
You
the,
see
I
what
saw
I did
the.
there?
Good at this.
I saw the not at all awkward segue.
No.
So you're telling me that if I went down there and wanted to create a bottle called Dino's Drippins, which now that I think about it is really a bad name because given prostate issues and whatnot, that doesn't sound
We are of that age.
of that age. But you're saying there could be a bottle called
Absolutely.
Dino's. I could do Dino's Drippins.
What he does,
Still don't like
No,
that. I
Dino.
gotta
No.
do something-
Delight.
No, that sounds.
it gets more painful every time you say it, really.
It really does, doesn't it?
So, I mean, it's not cheap, but the bourbon is...
All right, what am I tasting here?
All right. You tell me what you think you're tasting. I'll tell you what I think I'm tasting.
Oh man,
I will
it's
I will tell you it is a blend of 11
herbs and spices.
No, 11-year
sauce.
and 15-year bourbon.
Oh wow, okay.
Sourced from two different two different states.
Two different states.
Wow.
So I will. One of which is Kentucky. The other begins with an I, and they can't play football.
But they can play basketball.
So-
Yes.
Indiana.
Okay. So much like,
I'm a Hoosier.
not to step away from Mr. Mattingly's product, but OKI
Yes.
is a beautiful bourbon. Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana.
Exactly.
And this is one you're telling me. This one's Kentucky and Indiana.
Yes.
From two different sources, and it's got a.
Now, OKI, not to step on you, OKI was actually 100% Indiana juice, sourced from MGP. However, it was named OKI, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, because it was enjoyed in those three states.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, it was still damn.
Oh,
damn
yeah,
good stuff.
damn fine.
This has got a. It's like it. There's an interesting taste right up front, but it doesn't finish that way.
Yeah, it's that cool breeze.
Yeah.
It's the hammock.
And as my ice has melted down a little bit, it's drinking like a real smooth, like a iced tea or something.
This shit'll get you in
Yeah.
trouble.
Well, don't drink it. Don't drink it like an iced tea.
another one.
Because you won't be able to finish this podcast
Yeah.
if we do. What is that I'm tasting right up front?
Right up front, myself,
Yeah.
I get a little bit of sweet honey, and I get a fair amount of spice.
There is a spice, but the honey I pick up on, but I'm more trying to zero in on the spice per se.
Almost like a nutmeg.
Not for me, not a nutmeg for me. It's like a.
I'm not
It's
refined
like,
enough.
I know it's like a dry spice of some sort. Maybe
I can have a
Yeah,
little cinnamon.
maybe I could-
maybe a little.
Like, yeah. Cinnamon without the sugar.
And it's got a nice sweet finish
Yeah.
because it's not real sweet going in. I don't
Oh, no.
think. No, it's
No,
not
no.
real sweet going in. It's got all kind of going in, but then at the end it's the cool breeze. Yeah, it's like the strong wind, and then the cool breeze.
The cool breeze.
It's delicious.
Good. I'm happy you enjoy it. Like I said, this one has been sitting in my closet for about 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
And it has taken every bit of willpower that I could muster up to not open it.
Well, thank you for waiting and bringing it to us. Once again, I'm flattered. We're honored that we actually are drinking a bottle that has our show on it, Whiskey Business. So,
Well, we're going to do one step better,
Uh-oh.
if you so desire.
I desire. What is one step better? What is one step better? How could it possibly get better?
It could
I feel like I'm on a game show.
Yeah.
It could.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Now, wait a minute.
But wait, that's still not all. If you call right now, I had a great conversation with Jeff Mattingly on the way here.
Oh, really?
I did. And I said, hey, I'm going on Whiskey Business. He says, man, tell the boys I said hi. He's seen you guys.
Oh, he has?
Yeah. So
Mr. Mattingly.
Yeah.
Hello. And
Yeah.
thank you again. Wow.
So what we're going to do, he had proposed to me to do an Ohio Bourbon Times pick.
Okay.
So what we have in mind,
Go on.
we will go to Mr. Mattingly's facility in Georgetown. we being
the
in
boys, all of us together.
of the we.
The royal we.
The royal we. And we're going to go down and we are going to co-brand an Ohio Bourbon Times Whiskey Business selection.
Get out. You boys up for that? Huh?
Let's do it.
So
Can you get the all clear? Can we all get the all clear?
Let's go tonight.
All right, we're going to
Yeah.
be gone about 7 days.
Yeah. So what we're going to do, we're going to go down between the four of us.
Uh-huh.
We are going to come up with the most spectacular bourbon that has ever met the lips and palate of any human being ever.
That, my friend, that's big talk. I'm not saying we can't do it, but that is a lofty goal.
I'm just saying
that is a lofty goal.
The gauntlet is down. If you choose to pick it up, we're
that
there.
would have to be with the assistance, of course, of Jeff Mattingly.
Oh yeah,
And Miss Trisha.
And
Miss Trisha.
And Miss Trisha. And
Yeah.
Miss Trisha. I got it right.
Well, I couldn't think of anybody better to do it. You guys, and we'll just tag along. And
Oh no, you're not tagging along. You
Well,
guys,
no,
you,
we will.
you both have developed great palates and a great appreciation for the whiskeys that we've had on this show.
Well,
As a
I'm
matter
in.
of fact, Scott,
let's
I
look at
believe
the calendar here. Let's see.
this is number. This is 87. 87.
87.
I feel like I'm 87.
Or maybe is it maybe 88 even.
Did you count last week, Kessler?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Kessler would be, 86 is Kessler, and 87 is Amira's Hamrick. So,
By the end of the year, 100.
by the way, I saw a very sophisticated,
That is high tech.
high-tech listing of the bourbons. Oh, yeah. Yes, yeah.
We'll put that on the social medias.
We don't put this. You want that? Want to take a picture of that?
So what we're going to do
That's great. Now, when are we doing this?
when it is convenient
to be
for all,
determined?
to be determined.
Is this a during the week trip, a weekend,
We'll do it throughout the week.
throughout the week?
They tend to get pretty busy down there during the weekend. Every weekend they do a new release. We are going to do one of their release picks.
The first time I came across Jeff's products was my brother-in-law, who I've mentioned on the podcast before, a gentleman who is a classic example of student surpassing the master. He was a confirmed Scotch drinker, and I turned him on to bourbons about 5 years ago, and he went bourbon bananas.
Yeah.
And the last time I was there, I don't recall what the bottle was, but he introduced me to a couple of Mr. Mattingly's bottles down there, and they were spectacular. And I said, what kind of crazy alchemist? I called him an alchemist.
I like that word.
I said, what kind of crazy alchemist is this guy that he's able to put that magic into the bottle like that? And well, now I know.
And it's this kind of conversation that perhaps we would never ever have occasion to have. That OBT and that venture for me has opened up for me. And I just feel incredibly fortunate, blessed, whatever you want to call it.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the Ohio Bourbon Times,
Sure.
which is a paper that will be devoted to Ohio, not just Ohio bourbon, but
Bourbon in Ohio.
Bourbon in Ohio, or the bourbons that come to Ohio,
Bourbons that come to Ohio through whichever means.
whichever means possible,
Exactly.
by land, sea, or air. And it's what possessed you. Well, let me start at the beginning.
Go ahead.
Let me start at the beginning. When did you first develop your affection and love for bourbon?
There's actually a bit of a story to that.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, go on now. Go on with your bad self. I was, getting more mature in age. You're
younger than I am.
Well, but these guys are younger than I am, and
They're both younger than they're
yeah.
yes.
So it's all a matter of perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But I decided, I was into the vodka, I was into the wine, real heavy into the wine.
Nothing wrong with wine.
I still enjoy wine. I still enjoy the occasional vodka. But I say, you know what? It's time for me to refine my taste, get in touch with my roots. My grandparents owned a bar in little tiny Edina, Ohio.
Okay.
You know where Edina is?
I know where Edina is.
You are the only guy in all of Columbus, besides me, and one other dude maybe, that knows where Edina is. It used to be a little tiny coal mining town down in southeastern Ohio. My grandparents owned a bar there.
I think anybody that's from the valley,
Yeah.
if you will, knows a lot of the small little little towns and burgs that surround it. With Steubenville, as I mentioned before, being the center of it
the
all,
world.
and the universe.
The universe.
All right, but Adina, okay.
So
What was the name of the bar? Do
it
you
was
remember?
called the Railroad Inn.
The
It
Railroad
was
Inn.
I can
right
picture
next
it.
to the
Yeah,
railroad.
that sounds good.
And my grandparents on my mother's side, the Kokovich, they owned the Railroad Inn, and for 30 years, I am told
I know that's how it always works. I am told.
that for those 30 years, the time during which he put 3 children through school, my mother was a nurse. My aunt went on for with her bachelor's degree. My uncle is a PhD of education, just retired from Muskingum University.
Nice.
All out of this little tiny bar. And back in the day, it was tough for an immigrant, from Poland, to get, shall we call it, a liquor license. So he had to maneuver through those 30 years to stay in business.
When you say maneuver,
Yes.
are you saying he operated the joint without a liquor license?
I would neither confirm nor deny anything like that because I certainly have no firsthand knowledge. However,
Though I've been told.
though I've been told that there's quite a storied history there.
I bet.
And they called my grandpa Peasel. And to
Peasel.
to this day, nobody knows, what that word means.
What was your grandfather's name?
His name was Steve.
Steve.
Yeah. But everybody in Edina had a nickname. Yeah, where the
Steve.
hell does that come from, right?
I expected something
long,
way more,
yeah.
way more ethnic,
Yeah.
and,
was
and
Steve.
rich.
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah, was it Bob?
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
Bob. It was Bob.
Yeah, bread man.
Yeah. Steve. But no one knows why they called him Peasel.
Nobody knows why they called him Peasel. But in this bar, he came from a long, rich heritage of people who enjoyed to imbibe throughout the prohibitive years.
Sure.
And not necessarily with medical dispensation, shall we say.
The medical
Yes.
bourbons that were dispensed. for-
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So,
And Ohio was a big state for that.
as I am told, again, I can neither
No,
confirm nor deny.
we know. We've had a couple podcasts that have focused on the bootlegging days and the fact that Prohibition actually started here
Yes.
in Ohio and
Yes.
in Westerville. We've had our good friend Alex Hasty from Ohio v. the World on a couple times. We talked about George Remus and everything that came along the Ohio River, and
It was the way to transport.
yes, it was.
Up and down the river. So I've got to hope, that my grandparents possibly may be looking down and saying, you know what, we done okay.
We've done it right now. The Railroad Inn is no longer.
The Railroad Inn is no longer.
Once it left your family, it was done.
He actually, this is how brilliant he was. He was actually able to sell a bar without a liquor license when he retired.
So he did not have a liquor license.
Dude, that was
I asked
strong.
you just like 2 seconds ago.
Strong, yeah, but now I'm admitting it because I had another sip of Mr. Mattingly stuff.
He sold a bar without a liquor license. Genius.
Genius, strong like death. But all of those being said, I
Yeah.
feel that that bourbon, this whole culture, this whole community, really, is a part of me genetically. And I was laying in bed one night. I couldn't sleep for whatever reason. Worried about work, a deal, blah blah blah, whatever it was. And I got up. I poured myself it was actually a Jefferson's Reserve, which I'm a huge fan of.
Can't go wrong with that.
So I poured a Jefferson's Reserve, and I'm sitting down, and I pull out my iPad, and let's look for some bourbon publications that I can read. I'm sitting here, I'm wide awake. And there was nothing. I could find reviews. Reviews are like what. Everybody's got one.
Yeah.
So that didn't interest me. Necessarily the history, you can only hear that so many times. I wanted to hear the stories. I wanted to hear the stories of not only the people that make the bourbon,
right,
the people that sell the bourbon. I wanted to hear about the stories about the people that drank the bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, the bourbon scene in Ohio is crazy. It's off the hook.
It's crazy, and it's exploding. I should say it exploded, and it continues to explode and grow.
Yes.
We're becoming a far better state for bourbon than we were a handful of years ago.
And I'll tell you what, my hat has to come off to one of your previous guests, Jim Canepa.
Jim Canepa has made it his personal mission. 3
years ago, Ohio was a bourbon wasteland. Now, on Truck Day, you will see, yes, and I said Truck Day.
Truck Day, yeah.
You will see Kentucky license plates in the parking lot of our liquor stores trying to get a hold of our Weller because they can't get it.
They can't get any, right.
How crazy is that?
Uh-huh.
In what alternative universe did anyone ever think that would ever be possible?
I don't know, but I don't want to reveal what the road trip is going to be or what the brand's going to be, because I think that's still under wraps. But I do have the pleasure of traveling with Mr. Canepa in the very near future to select something for the state of Ohio as well.
Excellent.
I'm looking forward to that, but I can't reveal what it will be. Just trust me, it'll be good.
I had and I had an opportunity as well here a couple of weeks ago, and I can reveal at this point, the state was doing a barrel selection at Smooth Ambler.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Oh, please! How can you not love Smooth Ambler?
My brother-in-law, who was just visiting, finished off the last of my Smooth Ambler 9-year-old. And I saw the last drops go away, and I went, you were a good soldier.
Yeah.
And my brother-in-law is very generous. If anybody was going to finish off the last of the 9,
you wanted to be him.
I wanted to be him. He brought me for my belated birthday. He got me a bottle of 12-year-old Van Winkle.
Yeah.
Because that's my favorite of the Van Winkles is the 12. And that's how this whole thing started with his bourbon madness. He came across a bottle of 12 that I had, and I go, whatever you drink, just try that one last. I think you'll like that one the best. And he did. And he goes, well, I got to get some. And I go, oh, good luck. And that was before people were.
Everything went crazy.
Before it went crazy. It was just like the seed of insanity. It was just planted, and it had not grown into the full-blown nut jobs that are out there now in respects to bourbon. But he got me a bottle of 12. For my belated birthday. So if anybody's gonna finish off the Smooth Ambler 9, but the Smooth Ambler.
I had the opportunity to join Mr. Canepa and his folks to do the Smooth Ambler.
So what's coming from Smooth Ambler?
Still under wraps
under
at
wraps,
this point.
okay,
The actual specs.
But it actually is from Smooth Ambler.
It is from Smooth Ambler. My uncle passed away, and his funeral was the same day as the barrel selection. So I was unable to, obviously, attend the barrel selection. But Jim assures me that it is going to be spectacular.
And
stuff.
Mr. Canepa will be contributing to OBT on some.
Yeah, actually, I did a pretty radical thing right off the get-go. In my... as 2:00 that morning.
You don't even have to do the next podcast, Jim, because you're getting mentioned on this one. So
there you go.
You're good to go.
His love.
Go ahead.
We did the way OBT started. We did a soft rollout on Facebook, literally that night. Mm-hmm. It's about 2 a.m. I'm like, there's nothing out there. Why don't we try it? So I pull out my iPhone and I whip together a logo real quick on some kind of free app. They wanted me to pay for the logo. I did a screenshot of it and just cropped around the edges. Said, okay, this will do. And
Hey.
yeah,
Sure.
and I start a Facebook page. And I said, this is what we want to do. It's a publication about the Ohio bourbon scene. Not about bourbon necessarily, but about the Ohio bourbon scene. And I shared it with a few friends. And I had a couple of more drinks and then passed out. Oh, and so I'm like, okay, what the fuck am I going to call this thing? And I was like this. I was like, okay, Bourbon Times. Yeah, that'll work. So that's how we came up with the name and everything. It was me alone in my living room at 2 a.m. with a bottle of bourbon.
Oh, trust me. Some of my most favorite and greatest and worst ideas have come alone in the middle of the night. So
Yeah. So I share it, and to some of my friends within the bourbon community, I said, hey, check it out. This is kind of what I want to do. And went to bed, got up to work, did my work thing, wrapped up around 3 o'clock. I checked the Facebook page, and we've got 600 followers.
just like that.
Just like that.
Because people are hungry for something bourbon
Something different.
and something local.
Right. And we will, we cover the state of Ohio.
Sure.
But, geographically, I live here in Columbus. So our focus, at least for this first issue, has, been Central Ohio.
That's fine.
And the things that I have learned, the people that I have met, I thought I knew bourbon coming in. I didn't know anything.
That's the beauty of this of this particular libation, is that you never stop learning. There's always I'm constantly learning new things about how it's made and how people are making it and what they're doing to it and how they're blending it and so forth and so on. And everybody is constantly seeking to make the next best thing. And
Right.
And that's great. Nobody. Once again, I go back to my opening comments. In this particular world, whiskey makers are anything but complacent. They're striving to get to that next level, whatever it might be, to be the next greatest thing out there that people are going to love and enjoy. And if that's the case, then this world will continue to thrive for many, many, many years to come.
And what I love, and this may surprise you to hear this.
From you?
From me.
Okay.
Or from anybody. When we go into a liquor store and we stand in line,
Yes.
and I stand in line about 2 Mondays a month. I will stand in line at my local liquor store to see what's there. Sometimes I have an idea, other times I'm just shooting blind. But when I get to the front of the line, and all of the Blantons, all of the Weller, all of the other stuff that the local folk want is gone. This is the beauty about Ohio bourbon right now. I turn 90 degrees to my right, and I have a veritable cornucopia of other bourbons
To choose from.
And some are even better than the ones that
Right.
everybody stood in line with.
Right.
I'm talking about the Four Roses. I'm talking about some of our local Ohioans. Tom's Foolery, Bottled and Bond. Please, delicious.
Yes.
Talking about some of the Middle West.
Oh, we had Middle West.
I know. I was
recently,
envious.
and
I slobbered a little bit.
We killed that bottle.
Yeah.
That bottle went. We don't always finish a bottle, but that one we polished off. And I believe we've been chatting as well. And Middle West, once again, Middle West, you're getting another plug on Whiskey Business. So you definitely owe us a visit here on the podcast. Which
And
I'm
also,
very
there
much
may
looking
be
forward
an
to.
email from Ohio Bourbon Times in your inbox. Check that out.
So Ohio Bourbon Times is going to have a bunch of fun stuff in it. Interviews with people like Mr. Mattingly, and I have the. It's fun. Let me step back 1 second.
Go ahead.
I found out about you because of John Whitney.
Mm-hmm.
John Whitney, who has become quite the bourbon enthusiast. After you went and did your Facebook thing, that's where he found you.
Yeah, and that was a couple of days in.
Yeah, he found you, and he goes this, you should get this guy. He's getting ready to start a newspaper, and then I immediately that night after you should write for. That's what he said.
Yeah.
You should write for these guys. And so after the
And
podcast,
I'm thinking, God damn, I got to get Dino to write for me.
and that night, after we got done with the podcast, John sent me the link, and I texted you or emailed you. I think I emailed you, and like within 5 minutes, you got back to me, and I'm like, I go, you just got back to me.
Yeah.
And then I find out you're from Steubenville.
Yeah, what the hell else am I
And like,
gonna
okay,
do?
like now I hate the word, I hate that such a cliche, but it's kismet.
Yeah.
at that point.
It is.
And then you and I meet and we talk, and we have a shared history being from Steubenville. And yes, I have the and I do say it's a privilege because I love to write, and I will be contributing a monthly piece to the Ohio Bourbon Times, starting with the May issue.
And I'll tell you what, and this may make you feel good. It may not make you feel good, but it's honest, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
I think you covered all the bases.
Yeah, pretty much. So I told my parents, okay,
okay.
who are still back in Steubenville, that I'm going to be doing a bourbon newspaper. They're like, oh,
I can just, that's my mother's still trying to.
yeah.
My mother's still trying to wrap her head around the podcast, so
Yeah.
I get it.
I
Yeah.
mean, mom's standard line is, well, don't quit your day job.
Right,
okay?
right.
And she says it with love. And, so that's kind of where they were in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, hey, Dino Tripodis is going to be writing a column in the paper every month. They're like, seriously? Dino's going to be writing for you? I mean, you are,
So I
credibility,
saved you.
huh?
I gave you
you
credibility.
gave me credibility to my own flesh and blood.
You're screwed, man. I'm sorry, Scott. You're done for.
No, but you've got to.
Will they be watching this?
Yeah,
at some
I'm
point?
sure they will be watching.
What are your
this.
parents?
Jerry and Eileen.
Jerry and Eileen? I'm not that good. But I will do my best for Scott. I promise.
But you've got to understand, and I'm going to blow a little sunshine where I absolutely believe that it belongs. Back home in Steubenville, Dino Tripodis is that hometown boy that done good.
Really?
Yeah.
How about it?
Yeah.
Really?
And, my parents were up here, week in, week out for 15 years for work.
Uh-huh.
And they always enjoyed listening to Dino, on the radio.
there you go.
They're like, he's from Steubenville, right? It's like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
get it 30
when
fucking
when you
times.
already have a very famous Dino from Steubenville,
Right.
Dean Martin, what you just said, a Dino that's done good. The first one I'm going to think about is Dean Martin. I'm not going to put my name on that list, but that's very sweet.
Well, I mean, and it's true. And,
Wow, that's nice.
And for them to say that, and even
that's wonderful.
even for me to to feel that, I got to admit, first time I met you, I was just a skosh starstruck.
That's why we had the long lingering hug.
Yeah.
Because you just thought,
Yeah,
oh,
a little-
this might be the only hug I get.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see tonight's hug. Jeez.
But I
Silly man.
I received via email your first contribution to the Ohio Bourbon Times, and it was spectacular.
Oh, well, thank you.
I
right.
cannot wait for everybody to read it.
The name of the column is "And I Hear He Drinks" because I've heard that line so many times over the years. Well,
a good line.
in various forms. Well, it's because he drinks, and I hear he drinks, and so I thought that would be a nice title that kind of encompasses, and you're giving me the freedom to write about whatever I want.
Yeah, and
in
you're
in respects to the libationary sciences, which is not a real thing, by the way. But I can, so yeah, the column is going to be fun to explore some things, and I've already got the next two kind of already plotted out.
Oh,
in my head
dude, you are my dog
for,
of dogs.
for June and July already. So, but I'm looking forward to the first issue, to the debut issue, if you will, which is going to be coming out right around the third week of May. Is that what we're kind of
that's
guesstimating?
We're guesstimating everything.
This will be a hard copy that'll be available for people, and also online as well.
Also online across the old all of the social medias. And the reason I wanted, I had the opportunity to go with a magazine format.
Right.
The glossy paper,
Sure.
the bound spine and all that stuff. But what on this planet is more old school than bourbon and a newspaper?
Yeah, I like that.
When you told me it was going to actually be a newspaper, I was thrilled, because I get 3 newspapers a day still, and people tell me that, you got newspapers? Yeah, I get 3 newspapers. I get the New York Times, I get the Columbus Dispatch, and I get the USA Today, because sometimes I just like to look at pictures.
Those are colored pictures.
But I get the 3 papers, and when you said you were coming up with a paper, I thought that was,
And
But I think we're at a time right now where some people actually pine for something that of old that their parents did.
What's old is new again.
Something. Once again, I hate this term, retro, but yeah, for something that kind of harkens back to a different time. So yeah, that's a great visual. A glass of bourbon and a newspaper called the Ohio Bourbon Times. Whether you're nursing that with a favorite brown liquor and a cigarette or a cigar or whatever the case might be, yeah, man, that's a picture.
And my goal, can I share my goal with you?
I would love to. Yes, share it.
I want people to leave their cell phones on the bathroom counter, and when they are sitting on the pot, I want them to be reading a copy of Ohio Bourbon Times.
And you realize that some people will be sitting on the pot, but they will have their phones and be reading it online. Baby steps.
Baby steps. Baby steps.
Yes, I agree. Just don't use it for anything else.
No.
Once you're on the pot.
I mean, Sears catalogs are obviously gone, but yeah, we're dating ourselves here. But at the end of the day, this newspaper, month in, month out, is going to be much like what you present. Not necessarily about bourbon, but with bourbon.
With bourbon.
Tell me the stories that come with it. Tell me about the friends that you have made.
Right.
Tell me about the experiences that you've had. Tell me about how the community. And let's be honest, we get a bad name. We earn a bad name sometimes. In the bourbon community.
Oh, sure.
We do.
Yeah.
But I have seen, honestly, remarkable things from the bourbon community.
Yeah.
I've seen unheard of generosity. I have seen unheard of acts of kindness. I have seen unheard of acts of brotherhood, sisterhood, true community. That is our strong suit. That's where we live. That's where we are best. Yeah, we chase a truck from time to time. Yeah, sure. We flip a bottle from time to time.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, we are probably the most profoundly altruistic, profoundly kind, profoundly caring community that I've ever been a part of.
Everybody that I've met associated with bourbon, whether they make it, sell it, distill it, create it, whatever the case might be, we had the opportunity to meet Eddie Russell not too long ago, and talk about a down-to-earth guy who...
What a great guy.
Given what he's contributed to whiskey, I mean, someone that huge in that world could be an ass.
He's
He's
just
not.
telling us stories for an hour about his family, his
completely
dad.
the way you described Jeff Mattingly. And Jeff, I'm so looking forward to meeting you and Miss Tricia in the months to come. I mean, yeah, I mean that's. I think sometimes that the soul of that actually gets reflected in the final product.
It doesn't it though?
Yeah, you
and
know?
isn't that the beauty of the brown liquor?
Very cool.
I mean, seriously. I mean, a piece of the maker's soul goes into this. Every
cool.
bottle.
In the months to come, maybe we'll get you. Not maybe. We'll have you back on because we're going to come back and revisit the success of Ohio Bourbon Times.
From your lips to God's ears,
yeah,
my friend.
and maybe we'll get into more, Steubenville memories because we didn't get a chance to do that because I wanted this one to focus on the very exciting venture that is Ohio Bourbon Times. And I will make a prediction to your parents, if you will. This guy will be the next boy from Steubenville that's done good. Yeah, I'm putting it out there. So God bless you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mattingly, and you as well, man, for
That's
sending
awesome.
down.
Thanks, Scott.
It's great
sending her
stuff.
down there and having put all that together.
And let's give a shout out to Amira.
To Amira.
Absolutely,
By the
Amira.
way,
Yeah.
Thanks,
As I'm saying,
Amira.
thanks.
She did a nice job
She
on
did a
this
great
one.
job.
How
with it.
poetic. The hammock thing. I love
Yeah.
it. That's great.
It's terrific. Ohio Bourbon Times, people, comes out right around the third week of May. You'll be able to get it online, but we are going to ask you to pick up one of the hard copies of it and just have that nice.
And where are they going to be able to do that?
They are going to be where bourbon guys hang out. It's a free publication.
Yep.
100% advertiser and subscription supported. So at your local watering hole, at your local...
There'll be subscriptions as well.
There will be
because
subscriptions available.
I had a buddy of mine from Steubenville who is a big fan of the podcast, and when I told him I was going to start writing for it, he was excited. He goes, "Are there going to be subscriptions?" And I did not know at the time if there were.
Yes.
So you're saying there are.
There will be subscription
Excellent.
opportunities as soon as my friend Joe gets my website up and running. Joe,
Joe, get on it, buddy.
Joe, trying to make this the next guy that done good from Steubenville.
yeah, for God's sake.
Yeah.
But yeah, there will be various levels of support that you can offer. All of those levels will get you a copy delivered to your mailbox every month. The only difference is how nice a swag you're going to get.
Yeah, I got the Ohio Bourbon Times rocks glass. I got the Ohio Bourbon Times coaster.
It's like
I
the
also
PBS
got, you got the
Radiothon.
shirt on. He brought
Yeah.
me one of those.
There you go.
Those shirts. So, he's already invested literally hundreds of dollars.
Several dollars, plural dollars.
All right. Well, in the meantime, you can keep an eye out for the future website, Joe. On Whiskey Business's accounts, Instagram Whiskey Business Podcast, Facebook Whiskey Business, Twitter Whiskey Biz Show. Subscribe on YouTube. Click that little subscribe button. And I wanted to give a shout out to Jeff Knapp. This is fun. He said, "Great episode, Dino and crew." This is talking about the episode that we just did with your mom.
Oh, wow.
He says, "I know you treasure your sweet mother, Dino. Give her a big hug for all of us. Thank you for this show." So that was a cool episode.
That was a very special show.
everybody to
so
go
yes, thank you for everybody who tuned into that
But it's
one.
important, just real quick, we appreciate it when you rate us and leave reviews because
Absolutely.
other people discover us because of that engagement. So you're helping us out when you do
Don't
that.
forget
Thanks.
the Columbus Podcast Awards. We are nominated in the comedy. Now I get it. Now I know we're in the comedy.
This was
we've
funny.
We've
This is funny.
had just a bunch of laughs tonight. I get it now. I get it. I don't think about it at the time.
What do you think about it?
We laugh.
Yeah. Think about it.
We laugh with our liquor.
See what they did there.
Go to ColumbusPodcastAwards.com and vote
There we go.
for Whiskey Business in the comedy category. OhioBourbonTimes.com is where we'll be able to find the publication as well, right?
Publication will be available online as well as at your favorite
In your
hangout.
bathroom.
And you're on Facebook.
Yeah, we're on the face web.
And you're on Instagram.
Facebook is Ohio Bourbon Times. Instagram is
See you like me now.
The Ohio Bourbon Times,
Okay.
because
Oh,
I forgot the goddamn password for Ohio Bourbon Times. I mentioned
He
I
is
had
just
a
like
few.
you. He is like
He is.
you.
Where I'm
Yeah.
telling you,
Oh,
see,
great.
you guys
Dude.
think it's just me. It's a Steubenville
It
thing.
is a
Oh,
Steubenville
that's it.
thing.
That's it.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
So the Ohio Bourbon Times, and it's something with Ohio Bourbon Times.
Thank
on
God we
Twitter.
know how to at least email. Otherwise, we would actually put letters in the mail.
Yes.
And that's when you would get information from us before it was all said and done. Scott, thank you so much, brother. I'm very excited about the journey that we're going to be going on here in the months and hopefully years to come.
It's
with
gonna
Ohio-
be a
with Ohio
lot
Bourbon
of
Times.
fun.
And I'm even more excited about the fact that this crazy world brought two boys from Steubenville together to do something fun. That's probably the best
Cheers.
out of all of it.
Cheers, my friends.
So
Gentlemen.
to Ma and Pa Krupinski, you got a good boy here. You got a good boy. I'm going to take care of him. Don't you worry. I'm going to write the best I possibly can for Scotty. I promise. All right?
Nostrovia.
So, as we wrap up, Whiskey Business, my friends, is a Never the Luck production produced on the audio side by the incomparable Greg Hansberry and on the video side with YouTube, who makes that thing look like a TV show each and every week. That's what someone said to me.
It's good.
That's what someone said to me. It looks like a TV show because John Whitney does such an incredible job on the YouTube channel as well. Thank you, Johnny, so much. Thank you, Scott, as well.
Dino,
thank you,
thank you.
Jeff Mattingly and Amira, for putting together this. Oh, look at that. It's almost gone. But I will be keeping and treasuring this bottle for a long time.
cool.
And so, my friends, until the next bottle, I'm Dino Tripodis. See ya.